Hey everybody, sorry I lost my live stream and I just can't get the damn Wi-Fi here to work, so hopefully the 4G looks pretty good. So anyway, just to complete what I was saying in the live stream that I did on YouTube, basically we have started the SHELLEY launch sequence for the incentivized testnet. Genesis hash is coming soon. Looks like Jormungandr 0.82 is frozen. So if you're a stake pool operator, go ahead and start building your infrastructure from that. And then you'll have the weekend to get everything configured and ready for your stake pools. And then the following Monday, we'll go ahead and launch the installers for Daedalus. And you'll be able to delegate from either the command line or delegate from the Daedalus interface if you desire to stake. So it's been a very long road. It's been a heck of a lot of work getting all the pieces to talk to each other. Lots of breaking changes along the way, more than 50 releases for Jormungandr in a very short period of time, which has been very stressful and taxing on the people who have to integrate with it. But we got through it. Stake pool dashboard is ready. The Explorer looks pretty good, and all the other pieces of infrastructure look amazing. As I said in the Google Hangout video, I just wanted to thank all the people who worked on the Jormungandr client, the Adrestia, the wallet backend, the Explorer team, the Daedalus team, for their diligence. A lot of these guys worked weekends and they put in enormous amounts of extra time and effort to try to get things done as quickly as we could. I'd also like to thank the community for their incredible work. We've had over 3,000 people now on the Stake Pool Task Force channel. They've been every release, installing those releases, playing with those releases, testing them, many cases going to GitHub and filing their own issues, or letting us know through other channels about concerns they had or things that they'd like to have modified. And it was invaluable feedback, and we certainly could not have gotten to where we are at today without all your assistance and help. And we're super glad to be able to do a release and be able to actually see the incentivized testnet wake up. So the age of SHELLEY has begun. SHELLEY has started. This is by no means the ending point. There's a long road towards decentralization, but super encouraging to see well over 150 stake pools have registered, and those stake pools are now going to start staking, and they're going to start telling us a lot of things about what we should do. People have played around with the stake pool calculator. We've had a lot of discussions about, for example, the need of a saturation parameter or not, the optimal return rates, and a litany of other things related to the business of staking and to the business of decentralization. There's many milestones ahead. Coming in January, expect to see things like the Byron reboot and being deployed to mainnet, and the OBFT hard fork coming, and of course the SHELLEY testnet on the Haskell side, which is a high fidelity representation of the specifications. And of course, as we go through 2020, the turning on of SHELLEY and Goguen and Basho and the other releases of Cardano. But I'm very proud to see what's happened, and I'm extremely happy to see that we finally got to this point. I just want to speak real briefly about some of the delays that have happened historically and explain a few things. When we launched as a project in 2015, we were an aspirational research project. So we started from first principles and we did enormous amounts of science, and we wrote lots and lots of papers, and we started with no preconceived notions about what we were going to deploy and where were we going to go. We were looking at basically just see where the science takes us. And for about 2 years, that's where the project existed. We worked with a lot of great academics, and that's actually some prototyping frameworks like Scorex, for example, which later evolved into the Ergo project. And actually, I believe Waves also used that code base. So in 2017, we decided that the time had come to actually start building some of the science. And so we took a two-prong approach, which in hindsight turned out to be a strategic mistake and a project mistake. One was to hire one team to build kind of a launch platform and basically use that to get liquidity and get people excited about Cardano and to demonstrate what Haskell software looks like in production. And another highly focused research team that worried about formal methods and would then write formal specifications and actually write high assurance Haskell code. The hope was that one code base would evolve into the other code base. So many of our original projections when we were exiting 2017 about when SHELLEY would be ready were biased on the fact that we would be able to reuse the code that we wrote for Byron. That didn't happen. In fact, the code that was written was not really up the standards, the flexibility, or up the design necessary to be evolvable or refactorable to a point where it could be reused. So we ended up having to actually discard that entire code base, which caused considerable delays, unplanned delays. Second, the problem with going from science to formal methods to code is that that approach tends to look a lot like a waterfall development process. And we had to spend quite a bit of time learning how to do product and project management with these tight scientific requirements and these tight specification requirements in a way that was still somewhat agile. And this took an enormous amount of organizational learning. And unfortunately, during that time period, we kept experiencing unforeseen delays. But along the way, we did learn. For example, we decided that we needed to have a better usable light client than what we could do with the Daedalus path, given the code it was encumbered with. And so we worked and created Icarus in just 4 months in a very disciplined way and handed Icarus to Emergo. They upgraded it and turned it into a product and brought that to market in less than 2 months. So in end-to-end 6 months, Yoroi was created. And now over 20% of the Cardano network runs on Yoroi, and it's had dozens and dozens of releases, and those releases have been great and have added a lot of functionality and usability to our ecosystem that would otherwise not be there. We also encountered a lot of operational problems throughout the last 2 years. In particular, we had to take on many duties and tasks that we did not anticipate due to for example, the Cardano Foundation not stepping up with exchange support, help desk support, community management. And these things created delays for us because we had to then operationally do things we weren't prepared to do. So we overcame that. Last year, we decided to also create some competitiveness within the teams, and we created the Rust client, which is now what we're launching today and throughout the weekend, and the consumer version of it on Monday. And this did slow down some of the shared services, the DevOps side and the QA side, but it did allow us to actually look at different approaches, talk about different protocol design, and also be able to have a rapid development feedback loop. They're following an extreme programming model, and in many cases do 2 to 3 releases per week, which is the complete opposite of where we were at with the Haskell side. So it's been a long road, and we had to learn how to write great software, and we had to learn how to write great protocols derived from science. And we had to do this with tools such as Nix and Haskell, which, while from a theoretical or academic viewpoint are beautiful and elegant, in many cases do create some frustrations because they're not quite ready for industrial use. And one of the great achievements of this project has been learning how to use this software, these frameworks, in a way that actually make them ready for industrial use. So we get all the benefits of the formal methods and the quick checks and these things without necessarily having to pay enormous downsides for it. So I'm proud of the resilience and the just resolve of our engineers and how they've been able to stick with it and systematically work their way through very complicated problems, and in many cases without any reference at all. Nothing that we've done over the last 2 years has ever been something you could go to Stack Exchange and ask a question for an answer to. In many cases, we just had to figure it out ourselves. For example, there was no guidebook on how to build a cryptocurrency. We just had to think about it really hard and then figure that out. And so there's a lot of science there and a lot of art there. And it's been quite a bit. But what's really exciting is now that we've gotten through that hurdle and we've gotten to a point where we're doing regular releases, weekly releases on the Adrestia side, bi-weekly releases on the Haskell node side, and Jormungandr is continuing its high frequency. We're now in a position where we can rapidly add things and we can much more accurately predict release cycles and dates. Even in the worst of times when we're doing new things and we pulled a lot of things together, we estimated that Jormungandr would hit the incentivized testnet sometime during November. To have a December release is not so bad, and it's not as significantly off, given that 3 completely independent systems with 3 completely independent code bases written in 3 completely different languages, in the case of JavaScript and Electron for Daedalus, Haskell for the wallet backend, and Rust for Jormungandr. To pull these things together with a team of more than 30 engineers located in more than 15 countries with only a slight delay is actually a pretty amazing achievement, all things considered. So moving into 2020, I think our best days are definitely ahead of us, and we're looking forward to a lot of really cool things. We've mastered the art of rapidly prototyping specifications and bringing them to market. And you guys are going to see that with the Goguen upgrade to the SHELLEY specification. So we should very quickly be able to get Plutus into market after SHELLEY's done. And also, we've already started simulation work for Orbor's Hydra, and that will continue through the first quarter of 2020, which will give us a very clear understanding of how both to specify the protocol, leverage knowledge from how we're approaching Hydra from the incumbents in the space, and also how we can quickly integrate that, Kronos, and other upgrades to Ouroboros into the Cardano protocol. Furthermore, we've learned a huge amount about the smart contract models in general, and it's really exciting to actually start talking about writing smart contract applications. We've already begun sourcing partners, getting partner commitments, and we've begun having a discussion about how we can have a large set of launch applications with the launch of Goguen, and that's pretty exciting. Also, the fact that the wallet backend has become a full product, it's called Adrestia, with Nick Nafak as the product manager, means we now have, for all IOHK products, a unified view of how exchange listing should work. And we've begun pretty aggressive conversations with many of our exchange partners about that unification and making sure that listing is as easy as possible and as easy to maintain as possible. So as we upgrade Cardano, that experience for exchanges should not change significantly, and they don't have to retool things. There's a lot to do. Cold staking, multi-sig, enabling exchanges to be able to provide staking services for their customers, and we're certainly working on all of that. But the velocity is always increasing, and the community is getting more and more engaged, and that's super exciting. It's also very exciting to be collaborating much more closely now with the Cardano Foundation. I'm here in Sweden, and I'll be doing a presentation tomorrow with one of the members of the foundation. And we'll be doing some joint interviews and videos while I'm here in Sweden. And it's really exciting to see what they're planning on doing about the governance side of Cardano. As many of you want to participate more than just being in our Telegram channels and using our software, you'd actually like to have a say in where things should go or propose changes. It's incredibly important that we have the Cardano improvement proposal process fully specified and released. And so our hope is before the end of the first half of 2020, that substantial progress will have been made on that, such that we can take that as proper business requirements for Voltaire and plug that into the Voltaire framework that we've been planning for decentralized governance. So it's really nice to be actually working with a productive foundation and seeing that they're able to execute and deliver, and they have a lot of really good people there now. And that just was not the case last year, and now it is the case. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm just also very happy that we're finally achieving our decentralization targets, and we're starting to really see these protocols wake up. There's a lot of magic in Cardano. 4 years of very smart people spending some of the best years of their career, or in the cases of the older ones, the twilight of their career, meaning this will be their last major project. And in that legacy, that spectrum of experience, to see all of that actually wake up and turn into a product that's launched to market is very humbling, and it's very magical. And it's been the privilege of my career to actually shepherd that and see that. And I don't think I'll ever have as much fun or be as challenged as I have in getting Cardano to wake up and turn into something useful. And to see this done in a high assurance way is also pretty remarkable. I've participated in many software projects throughout my career, but I've only participated in very few that have ever used formal methods. And generally speaking, they're used in not so good applications like missile guidance systems or these types of things. And it's nice to see that a system built for peace actually gets to have that quality finally behind it. And it's so cool to see that be brought to market. There's a paper that Philip Kant and the Formal Methods guys wrote explaining how we found agility in formal methods. And I think in addition to Cardano being just an amazing stack of software with amazing capabilities, which our benchmarks show are pretty remarkable, it's so cool as a software development methodology to actually start bringing this way of thinking about software to the mainstream, especially when you're talking about implementing very sophisticated software. The reality is software is becoming too interdependent and too complicated, and it's starting to become too difficult to test, especially when you're talking about global scale systems. And to be able to get some predictability and determinism and just get quality out of this super complicated interdependent ball is a very harrowing task. And it's really amazing to see a science math-based approach towards software engineering. And instead of saying, well, just release it and test it, release it and test it, you actually get some certainty that what you're releasing is right. I'm very happy to see that that's the case. So anyway, Shelley's waking up today. Genesis Hash is coming out today. 0.82 is stable. If you're building a if you're building a stake pool, use that. Start playing with it. Get your infrastructure in place. Things are going to happen pretty quickly over the weekend, and Monday we should have those installers ready for everybody to use and start delegating. So it's beginning of a new era. The Shelley era has begun, everybody. Thank you for your patience. I know it's been frustrating, and thank you for your support, and thanks for all the help in getting us here. And I really look forward to the new year because 2020 is going to be special. Cheers, guys.